Hey, good morning. It's Mark here with another morning rant. Time on deck 5:21. I got up about 4:30. I don't know why. I don't know why I keep touching and messing. Anyway, got up about 4:30, dancing around the internet and looking at stuff, and I stumbled upon this video last night. And because I went through my history, I'm like, I know I saw a report about something last night, so I went to this report. Fareed Zakari on CNN, he was talking to this logistics expert. I think he's a logistics expert. Oh no, I'm sorry, he's a Washington Post global economist correspondent, David Lynch, talking about how you know, um, there's a food shortage, there's a supply shortage. People are limiting how much you can get at places like Costco and Sam's Club and things like that. So let's go into why this is going on. All right, let's get into it.
Last month, Costco announced it was reinstating limits on how much toilet paper you can buy. Chip shortages are bedeviling companies that make everything from computers to cars to cooktops. And you might want to start considering beginning your holiday shopping today. Otherwise, you might not get what you want. What in the world is going on? This is meant to be a recovery. Well, David Lynch wrote a terrific piece in the Washington Post explaining exactly that. He joins me now. Welcome, David. So I'm in New York. I want to buy something. It's on the website. I get it. Why does it not get to me within the amount of time I'm used to getting it by?
Sure. Well, at the moment, whatever you order is probably sitting in a shipping container that's stuck on one of the several dozen ships, as many as 60 or 70 ships that are anchored off the coast of Southern California, just waiting for a spot at the dock to come in and unload. But this has been going on since the start of the pandemic, from the factories in Southeast Asia through the ports on the west coast of this country to the trucking firms, the rail yards, right up to your doorstep. There have been problems one after the other.
And each one feeds the other, right? So explain what happens. So as you said, there are all these ships waiting there. They can't get a spot. But now the trucks that have been waiting for for the ship containing my goods is now off schedule, right?
Exactly. This system, it sounds on the one hand, the supply chain, like the simplest idea. We're really just talking about moving boxes from point A to point B. But in practice, it turns out to be devilishly complex. And the system works quite well under normal circumstances. And it's built to operate a little bit like runners in a relay race. I run my lap, I hand the baton to you, you run a lap, and so on.
Now let me stop right there. First of all, I love this guy's beard. I would trim the top lip a little bit, but I love this guy's beard. Anyway, when I served in the Marine Corps, my job was distribution management. We dealt with. I used to tell my family, especially my mother, rest in peace, Ma, I love you, because she used to always ask me. She used to always ask me, what did I do in the military? Most people used to ask me, what did you do? The best way I could describe it was, I was FedEx for the military, or I was UPS for the military. We shipped beans, band-aids, and bullets. We shipped people, beans, band-aids, bullets, and household goods. So there were three different entities in my career field. We had household goods, well, personal property, which is what we shipped. When a service member PCS'd, we shipped their household goods to the next duty station. There was passenger travel, where if a member was going TAD, or if they were PCSing overseas or something like that, we would get their flight tickets and things like that ready. We dealt with passports and things like that. And the third entity of my MOS, or my military occupational specialty, was freight. We shipped trucks, helicopters. I mean, you name it, whatever equipment that those soldiers or troops or Marines or whatever needed, we shipped that. And we used We use ships, we use trucks, we use trains, we use planes, we use whatever means of transportation that you can think of. We use those means of transportation. I remember Fort Eustis, salute to Fort Eustis, Virginia, where our MOS school used to be. The motto of Fort Eustis, where the Army trained, was "Nothing happens until something moves," and that's what it was. That's the motto that we live by. Nothing happens until something moves, and we were in charge of making that stuff move. Now, this guy's right when he says that it's like a relay race. If I'm trying to get something from point A to point B, I have to make sure that everything is lined up. Not just freight, but when it came to personal passenger travel too. Because let's say, because when I was stationed in New Orleans, we would have to make sure that reserve Marines got to their training. So we would have to book their bus pickup. So sometimes we had to book individual flights. So individual reservists would fly to a certain destination. And then we had to get their buses lined up so that the buses meet those reserve Marines to travel to a certain destination. Or we would fly those Marines to a certain point, get the buses to meet up, get those guys, get their gear, and transport them to a larger aircraft that we purchased. Delta American Airlines or whatever, and we would purchase or rent a commercial airliner, get those Marines onto that airliner, and then fly them to their training, and then have buses there to pick them up to take them to their final destination. So we had to procure all of that to get those guys to where they were going to go to do their training, and then get them back home. So just like a baton, just like you said, if one thing failed, everything crashed. If somebody missed their flight, and it happened, we had to fix it. If we didn't schedule the buses in time or on time, or the buses ran late, it would mess up the whole chain. When it came to freight, if the gear has to be to a certain destination at a certain time for a certain event, and if we didn't do our part on our end, or if something happened on the road, so I remember, and I get real pissed off telling this story, but anyway, I tell it anyway. I was a staff sergeant in Miramar, and me and the Marines, and I've dealt with deployed freight for 4 or 5 years, but domestic freight I was still learning in. Anyway, so I wasn't perfect, but I was getting there. I was okay. We had to book 27 trucks, and you're talking about RGNs, you're talking about flatbeds, you're talking about step decks, you're talking about covered vehicles, you're talking about all kind of different modes, all different kind of trucks to get the gear to a certain destination, because it was going to go on a ship to Alaska, and the training was in Alaska. So me and my Marines, we worked tirelessly. Me, a civilian who was helping me out, who was teaching me the job on the fly, and we were booking these trucks. My Marines actually got 26 trucks out of 27 booked. We could not get one flatbed. For some reason, we could not find one flatbed. No problem. We can make the whole thing work. How about I got 13 trucks booked. Couldn't believe it. I got 13 trucks booked. The Marines got the rest. We could not get that flatbed, but we wasn't worried about it. We're going to keep pushing. How about on the Monday, all that stuff was supposed to show up? Everybody canceled. So we were stuck getting trucks throughout that week. Now, mind you, everything was supposed to come on that Monday. We didn't finish getting all those trucks until Friday. It's a lot more to that, but I'm gonna leave it alone. Let's keep going. But he's right. If one part of the baton handoff isn't working, it shuts down the whole operation.
But if when I finish my lap, you're not there waiting to take the baton, it doesn't matter how fast the next guy is, the system grinds to a halt. And that's what we're seeing with the supply chain. Those ships can't get to the docks. When they do, it's terribly crowded. The trucks that normally get in and out in the blink of an eye take forever. And the same thing happens at the rail yards, and the breakdown feeds on itself.
Is there a kind of original cause to this, what's going on right now? Or is it just so complicated one can't even pinpoint a place where it all started?
Well, the original sin is really the change in consumption patterns that occurred as a result of the pandemic. You go back to last year when many of us were trapped at home for a long time. We all stopped going out and spending money on services at restaurants, ballparks, movie theaters, concerts. And many of us started ordering more stuff on Amazon, Walmart, and elsewhere, laptops, furniture, clothes, what have you. And so if you look at the nature of the economy, services always dominates the U.S. economy. It makes up about 70% of spending. But the goods side of things, goods spending went down for about 4 months, surged right back up, and now exceeds pre-pandemic levels. Services spending is still way down. So the nature of what we're buying has changed. And we've got a supply chain that's set up for an economy that no longer exists. We're in a new world.
And you point out that our entire supply chain is built for efficiency, not resilience. Explain what you mean.
Sure. During the whole era of globalization, companies increasingly prioritize making things as inexpensively as possible. That's the whole logic behind these global supply chains that take parts from all over the world, stitch them together, and perhaps do some final assembly in Mexico or the United States, and then you've got your product. That makes sense if you strip out every bit of waste and cost. And as a consequence, whenever anything goes wrong, then you're suddenly caught short. And that's the lesson that we've learned during this crisis.
What he's talking about is, and it's self-explanatory. When you have a car, and this is where you get into the military-industrial complex also, but when you have a car, certain parts are made certain places. So, or a laptop. So you'll get a processing chip from Taiwan. You'll get the actual structure of the laptop from China. You'll get the components to make the parts from India. You'll get all. So everything is not built in one spot. Everything is put together in one spot. So getting into the military-industrial complex, what happens is, and the reason why we have so many planes and bases and things like that is because companies are not stupid. Boeing and all those guys, they're not stupid. What they would do is they would put together like the Osprey or whatever, C-130 or whatever, right? So they'll get a contract to build 20 of these things for like $30 billion. So what they would do is they will get the tires or the rubber for the tires from here. They will get the parts for the engine from here. They will get the parts for the plane itself from here. They will buy the seats from here. So all those jobs are created, and then the actual product will get built. It'll get shipped to a certain spot, and the parts will be assembled to make the plane here. So if, let's say, a congressman say, well, we don't need these planes no more, we have to shut down making these planes. Well, I put the seat making in this district. You take away those jobs, that guy can lose his job as a congressman or a senator. I put the parts that make the engine over here. So if you in this district, so if you shut down the making of this plane, 1,200 people are going to lose their jobs here, and so on and so forth. So that's how they keep. And no senator, no congressman wants to be primary to say they lost jobs in their district during their term. So that's why the military keep some bases open that don't need to be open. That's why they keep planes being built that don't need to be built. That's why they keep some ships built that don't need to be built, or they keep them running and they don't need to be running anymore. So I saw a report a couple of years ago how a nuclear A ship that ran on nuclear fuel for about 50, 60 years finally had to go and be refueled 60 years later. So they took this ship, got it nuclear powered. It ran on nuclear power for 50 or 60 years, and after that, it finally needed to be refueled. Amazing, right? But no, we still have to use petrol and things like that. So because, and this is why everything is being shut down. This is why, and it's not just it's a global economy, and and that's the problem. It's not just happening here; it's happening all over the world. We get this item from this country, we get that item from that country. I would tell you about Italy. Everything that goes into making a pizza, and you would say, okay, pizzas are synonymous with Italy. But everything that goes into making a pizza are not native to Italy. The tomatoes, the dough, I mean, you name it, is not synonymous with Italy. But they got those pieces, put them together, created a pizza, whatever. So that's what's going on. It's not Biden's fault. It's not Trump's fault. It's not any Republican or Democrat fault. It's the way the system happened under this latest pandemic. Most of us started buying stuff online, and we're not used to, and we're not used to buying stuff online. Like this guy said, it's about efficiency, not, I can't remember the other part, but most of what he said about it being efficient, making it cheaper, making it faster, making it better. And because of that, we're stuck in this rut. So a lot of people are saying, you hear a lot of people saying, girl, I went to the store last night and there was nothing in there. There was no bread, there was no canned goods, there was no this, there was no that. We have to go buy toilet paper now because the winter is coming, and they're going to start restricting how much you can buy and things like that. And that's what's going on. This latest and how do we fix it?
With the pandemic.
How do we get out of this? I mean, is this going to be as jerky, and are we going to keep seeing these delays? It's going to be a while before the whole world economy is back the way it was.
Yeah, I think many of the people we spoke to for our recent project say we have another year ahead of us of this sort of disruption. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be absolutely as bad as it is now, but it really has been a story of one thing after the other. You remember the Ever Given, the ship that got stuck sideways in the Suez Canal. And we had bad weather down in Texas that disrupted some key petrochemical plants. And now COVID outbreaks in Southeast Asia. Next year, in the middle of the year, the longshoreman's contract expires. And so companies are already starting to order more goods in a proactive way to try and get ahead of that potential disruption.
And is there a way to kind of narrow the supply chain, or is there is anyone talking about a sort of solution that doesn't require such a far-flung global supply chain?
Well, there is a lot of talk about it. There's been a lot of talk of perhaps nearshoring, of bringing factories, if not all the way back to the United States, perhaps to places like Mexico. But there's no perfect solution to this problem other than ending the pandemic. If we can end or completely contain COVID and our spending patterns return to normal, we start going out to restaurants more, start going back to concerts, start doing more of the travel and leisure spending that's taken a big hit during the pandemic, that reallocation of consumer purchases would go a long way toward fixing what's broken.
David?
There you go. If you want to get back to the way it used to be, because it's going to take, and I would submit to you, I think it would take another year or two to get, it won't just take a year, it's going to take at least a year or two to get us back to normalcy or to create a new system. It's either that or end the pandemic. End the pandemic. And I'm not going to go into mandates. I'm not going to go into things like that. I'm just going to leave it at that. But that's where we are right now. That's where we are right now. If you want to fix the problem, those people that are afraid to get the vaccination need to go get it. Or we're going to be stuck trying to make a new system, and people are not going to like the change. So I'm going to get up out of here, people. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe. Get at your boy. I will see you on the next one. I'm out. Y'all take care.